The room froze in a single breath, the music faltered, and every smiling face turned toward the back of the wedding hall when a powerful woman in an elegant suit suddenly raised her voice and commanded a lone man to stop staring at the bride and look at her instead. No one understood why a successful female CEO, known for her discipline and control, would break all social rules in the middle of a sacred celebration. But in that moment, something unseen, something buried under years of pain, sacrifice, and silent endurance, was about to rise and change several lives forever. Before we go deeper into this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts around the world. Her name was Eleanor Whitmore, a self-made CEO who had built a global event management empire from nothing. To the world, she was sharp, commanding, and untouchable. Every step she took was measured, every decision calculated. She rarely attended weddings unless they involved major clients, and even then, she stayed invisible. This wedding, however, was different. It belonged to the daughter of one of her earliest investors, a man who had once believed in her when no one else would. Eleanor arrived alone, dressed simply but with unmistakable authority, planning to stay for the ceremony and leave quietly. But fate had other plans waiting near the back row. Standing there was Daniel Harris, a single father in a slightly worn suit, holding the small hand of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. He wasn't watching the bride out of admiration or envy. His eyes were distant, heavy with memories he never spoke about. Weddings did that to him. They reminded him of promises made and broken, of a life he thought he'd have, and of the woman he lost too early. Daniel had come only because the groom was his cousin, and because Lily had never seen a wedding before. He spent most of his days juggling 2 jobs, packing lunches at dawn, reading bedtime stories at night, and pretending he wasn't exhausted. He was invisible to the world, and he had learned to live that way. Eleanor noticed him not because he stood out, but because he didn't. In a room full of laughter, polished smiles, and confident conversations, his quiet presence felt like a crack in a perfect painting. She saw the way he adjusted Lily's dress, the way he bent down to whisper reassurance to her without needing words, and the way his eyes carried a depth of sorrow that no celebration could erase. Something inside Eleanor shifted, something she hadn't felt in years. She told herself it was nothing, just a moment of distraction. But when she saw him staring ahead, lost in thought, her carefully built walls trembled. Her sudden command echoed through the hall, pulling Daniel out of his thoughts and drawing every eye toward them. Embarrassment flushed his face as he looked up, confused and unsure of what he had done wrong. Eleanor met his gaze, her expression intense but not angry. It was as if she was seeing him, truly seeing him, in a way no one had for a very long time. The moment passed quickly, the music resumed, and whispers filled the air, but something irreversible had already begun. For the rest of the ceremony, Eleanor couldn't focus. Her mind drifted back to her own past, to a time before boardrooms and billion-dollar contracts. She remembered being young, broke, and pregnant, abandoned by a man who promised forever and disappeared when life got hard. She remembered giving birth alone, holding her son for the first time, and making the most painful decision of her life when she realized she couldn't give him the future he deserved. She had given him up for adoption, convincing herself that success would one day numb the loss. It never did. Daniel, on the other hand, spent the reception trying to blend into the background. Lily tugged at his hand, excited by the lights and music, unaware of the storm inside her father. He felt exposed, judged, and small after being called out, even though Eleanor's eyes had held no cruelty. He didn't know who she was, didn't recognize her power or status. To him, she was just another reminder that he didn't belong in rooms like this anymore. Their paths crossed again near the dessert table, not by intention but by inevitability. Eleanor saw Lily reach for a cupcake and smiled softly, a rare, unguarded smile that surprised even her. She watched Daniel apologize to his daughter for not being able to stay long, explaining that he had an early shift the next morning. The words hit Eleanor like a familiar ache. Work, sacrifice, exhaustion. She knew that language too well. Over the following days, Eleanor couldn't stop thinking about them. Against her usual instincts, she asked her assistant to quietly look into Daniel Harris, not out of curiosity, but concern. What she found broke her heart. A widower. 2 jobs. No family support. Medical bills from his late wife's illness still unpaid. A man doing everything he could and still falling behind. Eleanor saw herself in his struggle, not as a CEO, but as the woman she once was, fighting the world alone. She reached out under the pretense of offering him contract work through one of her companies, something flexible that could fit his schedule. Daniel was skeptical but desperate enough to listen. The opportunity didn't magically fix his life, but it eased the constant pressure. Bills got paid. Lily smiled more. Daniel slept a little better at night. And slowly, trust formed between 2 people who had learned not to rely on anyone. As weeks turned into months, Eleanor found herself changing. She listened more. She laughed more. She allowed herself to feel things she had buried under ambition. Being around Daniel and Lily reopened wounds she thought had healed, especially the one shaped like a child she never held again. One quiet evening, after Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, Eleanor finally told Daniel the truth about her past, about the son she gave up, and about the emptiness that followed her success. She didn't expect forgiveness or understanding. She just needed to say it out loud. Daniel didn't judge her. He didn't offer hollow comfort. He simply understood what it meant to lose something precious in the name of survival. In that understanding, a bond formed that went beyond romance. It was built on shared pain, resilience, and hope. The real miracle came a year later, when Eleanor received a letter from an adoption agency. Her son, now a young man, had been searching for her. The meeting was emotional, awkward, and overwhelming. He had grown up loved, supported, and kind. He didn't resent her. He thanked her. And in that moment, Eleanor realized that life had a strange way of returning what you thought was lost forever. At the small gathering where Eleanor introduced her son to Daniel and Lily, she watched the 4 of them together and felt something settle in her chest. Not closure, but peace. The wedding where it all began felt like a lifetime ago, yet it had been the turning point for all of them. If this story touched your heart even a little, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives and that it's never too late for redemption, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you stories that matter. And before this story ends, take a moment to comment below and tell us what part of this journey moved you the most, because your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. In the end, Eleanor learned that success wasn't measured by wealth or power, but by the lives you lift when no one is watching. Daniel learned that asking for help wasn't weakness, and Lily grew up knowing that family isn't always born, sometimes it's found. And somewhere between a wedding hall and a second chance, 4 broken paths quietly merged into one.